Let's go to Fort Kochi in Kerala. It's a place where history isn't just something you see in museums. Sometimes it literally washes up on the shore. We're about to dive into an incredible story about a long-lost fort, a modern construction project, and a frantic race to piece together a forgotten past before it disappears forever. So just imagine you're walking along a busy beach, the kind packed with tourists. But one day, the tide goes out way farther than usual, and something ancient, something that hasn't been seen for centuries, slowly emerges from the water. It makes you wonder, right? What other secrets are lying just buried beneath our feet? Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1, a fort resurfaces. The whole story kicks off with a clue that, believe it or not, washed right in from the sea. And this is what appeared. After a really low tide, the sea literally pulled back its curtain to reveal this massive 8-row foundation made of laterite stone. That's that local reddish rock you see in the area. You can just imagine the buzz this created. I mean, what on earth was this thing? Well, it didn't take long for experts to identify it as the legendary Fort Emmanuel. Now, we're not talking about just any old fort here. This was a huge deal. It was the very first European fort ever built in India, and it stood as this powerful symbol of an alliance that would completely change the course of history in the region. And get this, the year it was built? 1503. Yeah, you heard that right. That is over 500 years of history just popping up out of the water, suddenly back in the sunlight. And wow, what a history this place had. Let's just run through its journey. First, the Portuguese built it in 1503, and it was their major stronghold for more than a century. Then, around 1663, the Dutch came in, took over, and rebuilt it to their liking. And finally, in 1795, it was the British's turn. This one fort passed through the hands of 3 different colonial powers. Okay, on to our next section. Clues carved in stone. Because it turns out that giant foundation was just the beginning. A totally unrelated modern construction project was about to unearth even more pieces of this incredible puzzle. So picture this. Construction crews are digging for the brand new Kochi water metro. And their machines start hitting, well, not just dirt. They were hitting history. Thankfully, a group of super passionate local heritage buffs and officials jumped in and managed to save 12 amazing stone artifacts before they were lost or destroyed. The absolute star of the show was this: different pieces of a hexagonal pillar. This wasn't just carved from one single stone. It was an engineering marvel. It was made of multiple pieces that were designed to interlock perfectly using these little male and female pins. Kind of like ancient Lego. It most likely was part of a huge grand entrance or a major support for a wall. It's now safe in a museum where it belongs. But they found even more. Check out these other uniquely shaped stones, some with 5, 7, even 8 faces, along with old stone steps. They could be part of an archway, maybe another pillar, but this is where it gets really interesting. Some experts think the style of these stones might mean they're even older than the fort itself, maybe from an earlier Jain or Buddhist temple on the exact same spot. The historical detective work just kept getting better. They found this amazingly detailed carved stone, and when they checked some old maps of the area, guess what? The spot where they found it was marked as the location of a lost chapel, the Church Bon Voyage. It's very likely a piece of the church entrance, another piece of the past brought back into the light. Okay, this next part is all about rewriting local history. And I love this because it shows how these discoveries aren't just adding to the story, they're actually correcting it. It's a classic case of what everyone thinks they know getting turned on its head. So if you've ever been to Fort Kochi, you've probably seen this famous cannon right on the beach. For years, the story everyone tells is that it's a relic from the original Portuguese fort. But after all these new findings, historians decided to take a much, much closer look. So let's break it down. Myth versus fact. The myth says it's a Portuguese cannon from Fort Emmanuel. Well, the archaeological fact is, nope. It's actually a British design from the 18th century. Way too late. Plus, the way it's built is all wrong. The walls are way too thin for a Portuguese or even a Dutch structure. And the final nail in the coffin? Old maps don't show a cannon here at all. They show a signal tower. And this really gets to the heart of why this kind of work is so important. One of the experts involved in the project put it perfectly. They said, it's such misinterpretations that had led to the rewritten history of Fort Kochi. We must point out the facts in correcting such misinterpreted history. But unfortunately, this story takes an urgent turn here. This brings us to our next section, a heritage at risk. Because all of these amazing discoveries are now in a very real race against time to be saved before they're lost again. The site is facing a double threat, really. On one side, you've got the modern world, that water metro construction is still going on nearby, and there's a real fear more artifacts could be damaged. And on the other side, you've got Mother Nature. The same sea that revealed the fort's foundation is now trying to take it back, covering it in seaweed and battering it with tides. And you can just feel the frustration from the people on the ground trying to protect this stuff. One local enthusiast just laid it out there, saying, "No authorities have come forward to preserve this laterite foundation remains of the fort." So, where do we go from here? This brings us to our final section, the future of the past. With so much hanging in the balance, what is going to be the fate of Kochi's buried history? The folks fighting to save this site are absolutely convinced that what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg. They're calling the whole area a gold mine for archaeology, and they believe a proper study could uncover so much more about the city's amazing past. So what's the game plan? It seems pretty clear. Step 1 is to get the word out, make sure everyone knows how important these findings are. Step 2 is to use that awareness to push for a real, official, government-backed archaeological study. And step 3, the most important one, make sure every single thing they find is properly protected and preserved for all of us and for future generations. Because, at the end of the day, this isn't just about old stones. A country's heritage is its story. It's what gives it meaning. And if we lose these pieces of Fort Kochi's history, we're losing a chapter of that story forever.
It's kind of poetic, isn't it? Fort Emanuel was the literal, physical foundation of this historic city. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. If a city's history is its real foundation, what are we actually building when we decide to just pave over it?